Hi, friends. Welcome to Encouraged and Equipped. On this podcast, we introduce you to the women of Christ Chapel Bible Church.
We love being encouraged to live out our faith in Jesus by hearing the stories of women in our church community. We are so glad that you're here. Hey, welcome back to Encouraged and Equipped. I'm Camille. I'm here with Brooke today, and we are releasing an episode with Allie Castellano about control. And listener, I don't know about you, but that's something that I deal with on maybe a daily basis. Brooke,
I can't relate at all. I've never struggled with control. So I'm, kind of coming out of, no man's land with this issue.
I think, logically, we all know we don't actually have control over the majority of things in our lives, the circumstances that are around us. But it's that reminder that we lack control, for me, that's so frustrating. And It can even be painful at times.
Oh, for sure.
For me. And so there's that nagging question of like, when I feel like that desperate desire to kind of tidy up all the chaotic parts and circumstances in my life, what do I do? What do I do when it feels like there's nothing that I can do to set things right when I'm not actually in control of things? And so in today's episode, Allie is going to talk with us about what it's been like for her in her life as she's dealt with that question. So I guess my question for you, Brooke, is have you ever felt like things were out of control?
What does that look like in your life? No, I'm very grateful for Allie and this episode. I'm excited for everyone to hear it. And all jokes aside, I think we all, in one way or another, struggle with control. I will say, I do think my relinquishing of that is a big part of my story and my walk with the Lord. And I even think I think this can be a felt need for everyone for different reasons. I love how you said, oh, I want to be in control because I feel the need to tidy up this chaos. And I'm like, man, I have moments of my story where I'm like, oh, I wanted control because I care about perception. Oh, I want to control how this relationship goes. I want to control even minute things like a small side combo. I want to control this and this. And so much of my anxiety, even professionally, is, oh, I'm being measured on this, so I would like to be able to control it.
Absolutely.
And I think, like I said, that has created a lot of angst. And I think I, by God's grace, have experienced a lot of freedom from anxiety in releasing control, and not just releasing it passively, but in saying, okay, God, this isn't mine, it's yours. But also reminding myself and almost like praying a prayer to God, acknowledging, hey, God, you are God, I'm not. You are in control. And, control is, my mom used to say this to me when I was younger and I didn't really understand it, but it's like control is a myth. Control, I think we have an illusion of it. And I think God in his kindness entrusts things to us, but I think it's under his sovereignty. It's not for us to kind of, white knuckle. And I think I've been guilty of that. And as I've gotten older and learned a lot of things the hard way, I tell people God has to teach me the same couple of lessons over and over again. I'm not really learning anything new. I'm just learning the same thing. But yeah, I think this episode is super relatable from all sorts of angles. So I'm excited for people to hear it and grateful for Allie's vulnerability and sharing kind of what her thought life and walk with Jesus has been like when it comes to control.
Yeah, absolutely. In this episode, Allie is going to share some really sweet but really hard-learned lessons about coming to terms with things that were out of her control, specifically during a season of infertility and IVF treatment. So our hope and prayer is that you, listener, would be encouraged by the truths of the gospel that she shares, no matter what circumstances that you might be experiencing. And if infertility is a part of your story that makes this episode difficult to listen to, feel free to save it for another time and know that we're praying along with you in the midst of whatever difficulty it is that you're in.
Yeah, I'm so glad you gave that precursor. And so, like always, we hope this episode is a blessing to you, and we hope it leaves you feeling encouraged and equipped. So without further ado, here is our conversation with Camille and Allie.
Hey, welcome to Encouraged and Equipped. I'm Camille, and today I have a friend, Allie Castellano, who's joining me. And if you haven't met Allie, you should, first of all. Allie has been at Christ Chapel for... Let's see.
Oh, gosh.
It's been
probably
a long time.
11, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah. I've known Allie pretty much the whole time. that she's
Yeah.
been here. We met when she was in college. And it's been really awesome to see the Lord work in her life and grow her and her family. And today we're talking about control, which
Ooh.
is the most fun topic.
Yay.
One of the reasons that I asked Allie to come on, and then one of the reasons we chose to talk about control is I think this is maybe one of the most relatable topics.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've met anybody who doesn't struggle with the idea that we're not always in control of things.
Right.
Or doesn't struggle with desiring to be in control. And maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it's something that I think about a lot. So I'm glad we're talking about it today. Allie, tell me a little bit about like how you've wrestled with control in your own life. And then maybe how has the idea of God's sovereignty kind of shaped the way that you view control?
Well, I am a planner and I like things to go the way that I want them to go. And I have just a whole plan. And, God is so good and says, that is such a cute little plan. Here's mine. I'm like, well, but can I have an outline of your plan? And he's like, no.
No, not exactly.
But thanks for asking. I think it's something that he has been very consistently teaching me over and over and over and over. And I'm finally, now in my 30s, starting to get it. And he will have to continue teaching me every single day for the rest of my life. But it's a lesson I've been really grateful for, especially these past few years. So I came into knowing the Lord when I was in college. Prior to that, I hadn't really been raised believing anything specific or being taught anything specific. And so I was just like, oh, this is great. This is all up to me. I am in control of everything. And turns out I wasn't.
You're not quite. That's not exactly
and
how
I'm
it
still
goes.
not. But I got married in 2018 and then we started talking about having a family. And of course, I had a whole timeline in my head. I'm like, okay, we'll have our first kid in 2020, 2021, and then we'll have another kid, and then, and we'll go from there. And that's just not what happened. We, kind of started that process and it didn't happen. And then it still didn't happen. And then it continued to not happen. And, I started to get pretty discouraged in that. And God just was there. He was so present through all of it. At the beginning, I kept it very close to the chest, though. I felt kind of ashamed of it, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why isn't this happening? And once I started to kind of start telling people, like family and friends, like, hey, this is going on. We're really struggling to get pregnant and start a family. God showed up in ways that shouldn't have surprised me, but did. Just the amount of support that we received from people that we loved, and even from people that I didn't know well.
Really?
Yes, Women in the Word, my table, I guess now this is a couple of years ago, I had never shared at Women in the Word before, like that prayer request, because or if I did, it was a very surface level.
Right.
Like, yeah, we want to start a family and we wanted to start one for 2 years. Like, I didn't share that part.
Yeah.
But then one night I did. And at that table that fall, we were sharing our prayers on like a note card and then giving it to one other person. And I handed it to another woman at my table, and she just looked me dead in the eyes and said, I love this prayer because I've been this prayer. And she wasn't the only one at the table either who had struggled with like that infertility battle. And what a gift that was. And we still have a group message with the three of us where we'll check in and talk and, share prayer requests and those kinds of things. And that's just something I would have never seen coming.
Yeah.
And it was just such a gift. And it's just, as time has gone on, more opportunities like that have come up.
Yeah.
And, both of those women had been through the IVF process, which was just, we ended up getting an infertility diagnosis. And I really wrestled with that. That was hard. And I was just very crushed because that just wasn't my plan.
No.
That's not what I envisioned.
Right.
And, I spoke to friends, and I had one friend in particular who was like, why can't you just cry out to the Lord? Like, cry out to the Lord about this. And I did. And I was met with such a feeling of peace. Like, it didn't change the circumstance. It didn't make anything better or different. But it was just God saying, like, I'm here and I am sovereign over this. And I have a plan that you can't see, but it's good. And at that point, I didn't know what that plan was. Is that plan, we are not going to have children, and that's just our story, and God's going to guide us differently? Or you're going to get pregnant naturally, or you're going to do IVF and it's going to work, or you're going to do it and it's not going to work, or adoption's going to be your story. I just had no idea, but I felt peace about it. I'm not going to say I felt peace consistently every single day, and I wasn't still sad and it wasn't still hard, but I just knew that the plan was going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think just through that experience, I really have recognized God's sovereignty of just, he truly does have it all in his hands, and I don't have to stress about it. I just don't have to sit and worry all the time about, well, what's going to come next? What do I need to do? What decision do I need to make? I still have to make decisions.
Sure.
But I will not derail God's will. And, to think that I'm powerful enough to do so is doubting how powerful he is.
One of the things that you said, and I thank you so much for sharing your story. And I love the fact that God was so faithful and present with you and Carson and your family, especially in the midst of like uncertainty and not knowing what was coming next. And I want to talk about several things that you said. The first thing that you said was that I knew that God had a plan and it was good. And I wonder how many times we've been in a pit, or we've been in uncertainty, or we've been in the middle of something that's chaotic or feels chaotic, right? And we can stop and remind ourselves that, okay, God has a plan and it is good. But I wonder, like, I might have in my mind what I think good is, right? Like, if I'm in the middle of something that I'm struggling with and I think, okay, God has a different plan and his different plan is good because it's different from this that I'm in, that may not necessarily be the idea that God has. So if you could describe maybe like, what do you think of when you think of God's good plan?
It's such a good question. Something I think that's often misinterpreted is, God will give you the desires of your heart. And that sounds really just peachy.
It does sound peachy.
Oh,
my heart desires a lot of things.
Whatever I want, ice cream every day, cool. And that's not what that means. It means that like we pray for God to put his desires into our heart, and therefore that is what we desire. And he has this whole story arc. I mean, even as we read the Bible, we see that entire arc of the story. And of course, there's so much more to it that isn't within those exact words, because it's what we're living. But there's just this beautiful beginning to end that was there from the get-go. From page 1, he had it all mapped out through the end. And, like read a book like Revelation. And I know that can be a really like scary book for some people.
Yeah.
And I didn't read it for a really long time because it's like that feels like really intimidating.
Yeah.
But now I've read it more than once, and it's beautiful because it just is showing God is following through. God has it worked out.
Yeah.
We do not have to work it out because it's there, and it's going to look the way that he envisioned, which will be different from what we envision. Yeah. But it's this paradise that he is building for us and he's drawing us to. And I mean, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it just makes the little things we worry about day to day small. Yeah. And they're not insignificant. Right. But compared to him, it's just like we would rather have what he has for us. You know, it's like that image of that you see kind of online of, you know, like Jesus and a little girl, and she wants the little tiny bear, and he's holding this massive teddy bear behind his back. And it's like, if only you could see what God has planned for you. It's just our brains can't even conceive of that beauty and that goodness. Yeah. So a big thing that I have started trying to do more in the past few years, and I'm not going to say I do it every single day consistently, but just really like, as I pray, instead of praying, hey, God, can you change this circumstance? Can you do this thing for this person? Or I really have tried to pray for, God, can you just guide my heart to see what your desire is? Like, guide my heart to you. You know, teach me to be like you. And then I pray that for other people too. Of course, you know, make this circumstance better, heal their illness, you know, grow their family, whatever it is. But can you align their heart to your will? Yeah. And that's been very powerful, I think, to pray over myself and over other people. Yeah. Because that's ultimately what's going to happen. And so the more we can steer ourselves to it, just the more of God's joy we'll get to experience. Yeah. So
for those of you who have not met Allie, she is probably the world's most exciting teacher. Like, I'm trying to like imagine a more like engaging and fun classroom than your classroom, and I just can't do it. And so as somebody who has spent multiple years like cultivating a lesson plan and like looking over the school year and knowing like I'm taking this group of third graders, first graders, fifth, whatever it is. Right. Or a group of kids I'm tutoring, right? I'm going to take them from where they are today. And then at the end of May, this is where I want them to be. Or these are the things we're going to learn, right? But I would imagine that on September whatever or August whatever, when your students come into your classroom, they are not delighted by the lesson plan.
It's the weirdest thing.
I mean, what 7-year-old is not just saying like, hey, you know what I'd like to do today? I would like to learn how to conjugate verbs.
Right.
I really want to learn what the scientific method is and all of the Latin roots that come along.
Tell me all of the sounds that A can represent. I can't wait.
It's so fun, right? Every kid wants to be able to read the book, but not every kid wants to be able to like do all the things that it takes to get there, right?
It's a lot of work.
It seems like a lot of work. Yes. So I'm thinking about the idea that like, as the teacher, like you have authority, sovereignty over the classroom.
Right.
That's a bit of a stretch, but you have authority over the classroom, but you're the one that has like the overview of the year. Like you have the view of where we're going and how we're going to get there and the things that need to happen along the way, because you as the teacher know this is good.
Right.
Being able to read independently is a good gift that will serve you for the rest of your life, or being able to add and subtract while we may not see the benefit of it immediately,
Right.
it actually is incredibly necessary
Right.
and helpful, right?
Right.
But how many times have you convinced a student that that's what they need and will love?
Right. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And even, we teach social skills, how to just be a human. These little first graders come in and they are still learning how to human. Like how to interact with other people, how to go to the potty on time, we're learning so many things, and it's so much, and it's overwhelming. And it is hard to get them excited about those kinds of things. I'm like, well, but I don't want to share that, or, I don't want to have to do the hard work to read that or spell that, or, and I'm like, but don't you see?
Yeah.
And there's so many times as a teacher that I've, been driving home or telling a story to my husband or my mom or whoever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that these kids aren't understanding this, or I can't believe they acted this way, or I can't believe they responded this way. And then I have to stop, be like, how many times do I act the exact same way? And God is not shaking his head at me or rolling his eyes, and he's just responding with love. And, that makes me more invested in following his plan, because he's not mad at me. He's not disappointed in me. He just loves me. And he's like, okay, I will show you again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely something that I very imperfectly tried to do as a teacher, just creating that love and respect. And I think, you asked about the difference between kind of sovereignty and control.
Yeah.
And that really stumped me at first. But then I recognized someone who's who's controlling versus someone who's in control. Someone who's controlling, everyone is a pawn in their scheme, and their goal is for everyone to bend to their will or their plan.
Yeah.
And they want to orchestrate everyone's everything. God is not like that, right? God created the ship, and he invites us all aboard the ship, and he's steering the ship. That ship is going to get to its destination that he set. But what we do aboard the ship is up to us. There are different jobs we can do on the ship, and sometimes we're going to jump off the ship, and he's going to send lifeboats after us, and he's going to send other passengers after us, and he might even turn the ship around. But we are not derailing that ship.
Yeah.
But he's not controlling every single move that we make and every single decision. And I see that in the classroom, teachers who try to manipulate every single thing that their kids do. You have to do this thing this way, and it's because I said so. Those kids don't want to learn from you. They don't, because children and adults, we're rebellious by nature, we're sinful by nature, we don't want to be controlled, but we really want to be guided. We really want to be given boundaries, and we want to be taught, and we want to be taught in a loving way, but also a firm way. And that's where the classrooms I've seen the most success. The kids love their teacher, and they respect their teacher, and they trust their teacher, and therefore they're going to be more likely to learn. And that also looks different for every kid. And I think God, probably responds to all of us differently, because we are all different. But he's sovereign over this plan. He created it. He is guiding it. Nothing is derailing it. But we still get to make our own decisions within that. I used to just really, really agonize over every little decision, and still do.
I still do as well.
Still do. And then I have to stop and be like, this is so silly. This one decision I make will not determine whether or not God's will prevail.
Yeah.
It won't. And he can do his thing no matter what I do.
Yeah.
I'm just like one little person.
Yeah.
And he loves me and he cares for me and he knows all of my steps and he's following them. But he will get me through his plan.
Yeah.
No matter what.
One of the things that I've been kind of rolling around in my head as we've been talking about control and essentially like trusting or surrendering, there's several moments in my life where I think like I'm kind of at a crossroads or I'm having to make a decision is really what it boils down to. And
Right.
I'm very indecisive.
Me too.
But I wonder if like, do other people struggle with this idea too that like, how do I discern when I'm supposed to act, when I'm supposed to move forward, when I'm supposed to do this, and when I'm just supposed to relinquish control?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we discern in those moments what the right thing is to do? Like, if I genuinely want to honor the Lord and follow him, like if I love him as like my heavenly Father and my guide and my teacher and the one who holds all my steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I love him and want to surrender, how do I discern?
And it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think there's like a right or a wrong answer to that question either. Obviously you rely on godly counsel and you go to his word and you can sit in thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a certain point where you kind of have to make a move.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes back to the idea that whether we move forward with something or whether we choose to sit and wait, God will orchestrate his will.
Yeah.
Unless the decision that we're making is like, should I continue to follow the Lord or should I like go join this group of, I'm
thinking about the group in Proverbs, like the men lying in wait, like don't go there.
Right.
Don't go to the men lying in wait for blood.
Like there are some decisions that like, that's pretty obvious on. But I think you just have to ask God to meet you in that. And it's okay to have some discomfort, I think, in making that decision.
That's good.
But ultimately, I think when you choose whether to sit and wait or choose to act, God will grant you a peace in that. Just saying, hey, I'm here. I'm going to make this happen the way, and it might be, I'm going to make this happen in 6 years.
Yep.
Or I'm going to make this happen tomorrow and you won't know, but I'm going to, and you don't have to sit and stress about it. Doesn't mean those decisions aren't important.
Right.
But it just means we're not powerful enough to change his will.
Right. I love that you said that there are times, I'm not going to say it exactly like you said it, but you were talking about the fact that it might be a painful decision or it might be discomforting at the time.
Right.
Like we're not promised that all of these times when we're trusting the Lord that we will feel like peaceful or we will not feel comforted or satisfied in the moment.
Right.
And I think that's the difference between like my feelings are not going to match 100% of the time what the truth of the matter is.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that God's presence has never left me. He is always with me, and he always fully satisfies us in the person of Christ. And whether my heart and my feelings and my guts, for lack of a better word, will match that and respond appropriately to that it's not irrelevant, but it's not the main thing.
Right. Like our feelings are very fickle and they're not bad, but we also can't base our decisions off of those feelings because they're fleeting.
Right.
And God is constant.
Right.
So there was definitely when we were making that decision of, well, do we pursue IVF? Do we wait? Do we try a different avenue? And we eventually did decide to pursue IVF. that wasn't a comfy decision.
No.
It wasn't. It was hard. And I know too, that's something that can have a lot of just controversy, especially in the Christian community, and rightly so. But ultimately, I did feel peace about God will orchestrate life in the way that He has planned.
Yeah.
And if this is not what is meant for us, it won't work.
Right.
And that's okay, because then that wasn't His plan.
Right.
And He has a better one.
Yeah.
And I may not like it at first, but
right.
Just that, again, I am not in control of this deal.
Yeah.
I can make a decision and make a step forward, but ultimately He's making the decision.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was discomfort in that.
Yeah.
But then also there was peace within the discomfort, because I know that He is going to take care of it.
Right.
No matter what.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that's not, I didn't prep you for this question at all.
Oh, good.
So feel free to say, no, I don't want to answer that. And that's okay. But I wonder, in the midst of that timeline, like when you're actively wanting to take steps that would honor the Lord and would demonstrate that you trusted Him. And I've heard you say it multiple times that like God's plan is good, and whether it's what we envisioned or not, like we will trust in it. It's good. In the midst of that, like, and thinking in the context of like unity within your marriage, like how did you see the Lord working in that? Because I know it can be difficult when two believers who are also two sinners are in a covenant relationship and they're making these decisions together.
Yeah.
Like Satan desperately wants to get into there and bring disunity and mistrust and contention and all sorts of things. So I just wonder if you'd be willing to share what fruit you saw, how the Lord worked in that time.
Oh man, this is one of those things that I know can really tear relationships apart. I mean, any major life change, any major tragedy, any, those kinds of things can really tear two people apart. And I can say so gratefully that it has drawn us so much closer together. I think we just in kind of that almost grieving together and going through this together, we became so much closer.
Yeah.
Because I think we both were willing to just be vulnerable, and not in a way of we're going to let our emotions be the king of this thing, but just, hey, I need to tell you how I'm feeling, and just listening without judgment to that, and being willing to comfort each other, and understanding too that there may be times when one of us has to carry the other a little bit. And times too when we're both kind of at a zero and we both just need to like sit in it together. And that's okay. And, just we've prayed about it together, and we've just had a lot of really open conversations. But I think also a big thing was not letting it be the center of every conversation all the time. You know, like we still went and we still did fun things, and not in a way of like, oh, we're sad, let's just go, mask it with something else.
Right.
Which sometimes can be helpful.
Sure.
You have to sometimes just push yourself out of it, or we can just sink into those emotions and get really, really lost in them. But, let's watch this funny movie. Let's go for a walk. Let's, just do something nice too. Let's go get some ice cream. And then just that ability to like laugh together. And inevitably, and oh my gosh, he's so sweet. So nobody tell him that I said this, but if I cry, which is not super common, I'm just not a super tearful person. But if I start crying, he's gone.
Oh my goodness.
I know. He's so kind. And then we both then we're both sitting there and we're crying. And then we just end up giggling together because we're like, look at us with all of our feelings together. And it's just, we just are able to connect with that. And, where I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm emotional and I'm sweating. And, and then we find some way to kind of laugh so that we're not just, there's just something positive that can come out of even sadness. And it's something that I never thought I would say, but through over 4 years of like trying to start a family, I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that God challenged me and us in that way, because there were some massive lessons that I needed to learn about his sovereignty and about patience, that I probably wouldn't have been willing to learn if it hadn't been a little bit forced on me. Yeah. And I'm just so glad. And I now can see the good purpose in it of what I learned and the way it brought my marriage closer and my relationship with my family closer and my relationship with my friends. It showed that I have just this sphere of support that, I knew my friends were great, but now I know they're truly gifts in just the way that they've been supportive. And now I'll have someone say, oh yeah, so-and-so I think they've been trying to have start a family for a couple of years. I'm like, can I have their number? Because now I'm like, I know I've been there and I know how that feels. And I feel really compelled to reach out and just give them someone to talk to. And it's helpful for me too. And so those are relationships I've now formed that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And I just think that that's such a gift. I'm not going to say I thought it was a gift the whole time, every single day. That would be dishonest. But, overall, I can look back and say I'm really grateful that I experienced this struggle. I wouldn't wish it on anybody else. I wouldn't wish to go through it again, but I am grateful for it. Which I never thought I would say, but that's the goodness of God. Absolutely. That we can be grateful for challenge, because we learn of his goodness. And I have never felt closer to the Lord than, through going through something where I truly had to just open my palms and say, I trust you with this. Like, I cannot be in control of this. And you're showing me that. And it's good. And it's okay.
Allie, do you think that you now it's easier for us to think linearly in time, of course, now that I'm done with this, I move on to this, right? And that's really not the view I think that is most helpful to us, because we're not done learning those things. Right. But I wonder if now moving forward, do you find in moments where, even little moments where you're like, I'm not really in control of the traffic right now, or bigger moments where you're like, I'm about to be not working for the first time in my life. And I have zero control over the income that comes in. So in those moments where we're faced with a tendency to close the fingers around the thing in our palm, do you think it's easier now, or at least quicker, to get to the point of saying I'm opening my fingers very quickly, and I'm willingly and gratefully giving this thing to you. I'm really just acknowledging that it was yours all along. Right. Do you think that's easier?
I do. And sometimes I have to kind of snap, I'm perseverating over a decision or over something that I can control. And I have to just kind of snap myself back and say, hey, remember all of the incredible things that God has been doing and teaching you over, the past 5 or so years, but the past 30 some odd years. And I do think that I'm able to do that more quickly. I guess we haven't said it, but IVF did work for us, and I am pregnant, which is such a gift. And I know that's not how it always goes. And I can now look back and be like, oh, this was so great, because now I ultimately, I guess, got what I quote unquote wanted. But those feelings of gratitude started before we had this success. And I won't be going back to the classroom in the fall. And, even just the start of the summer, I had initially had the plan. I'd talked to the school, well, I'm going to go back at the beginning of the school year and I'm going to help train my replacement. And so I worked in special education my last couple of years and, just make sure that that's set up well. And I went that first week of summer and sat down and said, okay, let's talk about what this looks like. And they said, well, actually, we don't need you to come back. And I think 3 years ago, that would have sent me just totally spiraling because I had a plan. I bought maternity pants to wear to work.
I can't wear those now. Did you return those?
Yeah, what am I supposed to do with those? It's 1,000 degrees outside. But, and there were a few days where I was like, man, I just had this whole vision and I had this timeline of what the fall was going to look like and what my last day would be and what my days were going to be. And then I was like, you know what? This is good. This is what God had planned. And I don't have to be stressed about the fact that my plan was derailed.
Yeah.
Because there's a better one. And now I feel so much peace about it that's what happened. And I do think that something like that would have really thrown me off much more so. And I mean, it's like the difference of, oh, you are actually going to get to hang out at your house and fold baby clothes instead of going to work. So
it's a pretty good deal.
It's not so bad. But I think no matter what it had been, if they said, hey, we actually are going to need you to come back after you have the baby or whatever, I think that I still wouldn't have been as derailed by that because I just have a better understanding, not a perfect understanding, probably not a permanent understanding, but a better understanding that I don't have to white knuckle everything. And there's actually so much peace in letting go.
Yeah.
Which I have been told for a long time and have read and have learned, but didn't really learn it. Until I really had to go through something where I truly couldn't have any control. But again, I'm grateful for it because the peace I have now it surpasses all understanding, and it's something I just wouldn't trade.
Allie, you brought your beautiful Bible with you today, and I know, listener, you can't see it, but it's it really is she walked in and I was like, did you get a new Bible? And she's like, no. And it's kind of wearing at the edges, but in the best way, because I can tell that it is a well-loved Bible. And I wonder if, just as you're thinking about encouraging women who are in many different seasons of not being in control of certain aspects, and really struggling with this idea that is God actually good in the midst of this thing that I really don't like, or I really can't control? And is the plan, is this plan going to fulfill me? Is it going to satisfy me? I wonder if there are things in that well-loved Bible that you can share that would encourage them, or that have encouraged you along the way as you have learned those good things.
And even more so than a specific passage or specific story, I think a lot of it comes in the way that you read the Bible, which is not anything new or revolutionary. But something I've learned to do, maybe just even in the past 5 years, is I think we're so quick to read and say, okay, well, how does this apply to me? And that's okay, but it's not really the point. And instead, when I read, I try to look for, okay, where is God in this? And what is this showing me about God? Because ultimately our goal is to look more like God and become more like God. So the more we understand him and his character, the more we're able to guide ourselves and be guided that direction. So, for example, when I read, anytime I see a characteristic of God or an action of God, I circle it. And then it's really cool to go back and be like, wow, I circled like 45 things on this page.
Oh my goodness.
Look at all of these beautiful things: God's might, God's power, God's love, God's strength, God's sovereignty. And that they just come up over and over and over and over so consistently and so faithfully. And even I think in the stories where God isn't explicitly mentioned, like you and I have read the book of Ruth together, and you might just surface level read that and be like, well, wait,
where was God?
Where was he? But then if you really read more deeply, you realize he's in every single action that every single person makes. He's developing their characters, and he's helping them look to him. And he is orchestrating this, even if you can't see it. And I think that's really the most powerful thing to me about just reading God's word, is seeing him and how he is so present. And I mean, obviously he's present, he wrote it, but
but he's present then,
right?
And he's present now,
right? Like that does not change. It's consistent from the beginning to the end,
right?
And just reading something not as an isolated passage, but let's look at the whole book, the whole chapter. There is an arc that is so beautifully orchestrated. And I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of doing it too, we just chunk out little things that are like, okay, well, this is going to be most relevant to me, or this is going to be really powerful to me. But really the more powerful thing is seeing how his plan unfolds from beginning to end of a story. And that it was there all along. And you see all of these imperfect people along the way. And it just doesn't derail him. So much of the time, especially reading like Old Testament, I'll be reading and I'm like, how are these people not getting it? I mean, he has shown them over and over and oh,
that's me.
Oops. Same.
Yeah.
But that's how it's so relatable. These people in the desert, that's why sometimes I think we can't look at it and be like, well, how does this relate to me? Well, God's character is consistent and our character is not.
Right.
And that is how it's irrelevant.
Yes.
And he is sovereign the whole time.
Yeah.
When we forget, he will continue to show us because he's faithful and he's good.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
He's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then it's up to us if we choose to draw near to him in that, or if we turn and run, and he will chase us even if we do that. So
that's one of the things that came into mind when you were first telling us about your story. I was thinking about this last Sunday, we were talking in Exodus about the Israelites complaining about water, and they complained about food and not having it. And God, of course, is like, I literally created you out of dust. Like I created man out of dust. And I also, by the way, I made the dust and like the ground that it came from. And I've actually made a whole garden of food that was good for you, for a man to eat. Right. And I made it in the context of like, I made it so that you would know that I'm good and I want to be with you and I want to give you every good thing. And I gave you life and the ability to know me and all of these things that remind us, like every single bit of creation around us reminds us that God is good. Like he's good. Right. We don't have to wonder. And yet we do.
Right.
Like every step of the way, like all those good things that point to him oftentimes will tempt us to say like, oh, this thing might actually be better than the one who made it.
Right.
And I think when you're talking about the idea that like, I don't want to white knuckle this. I want the Lord to orchestrate things in the way that is good and right. That's when I think that's the Holy Spirit really just reminding our hearts that He made you. Like He knows what's going to be good and what's going to draw you to Him. And so I'm just really grateful that we get this picture in Scripture that in those moments where we want to grasp control and we want to say, you didn't give me food today. Like I want food now and I want it to be this and I want it to come from this place and I don't want to wait. And I don't remember yesterday when you gave me food. We're not alone in that. Like this has been happening for centuries and God responds. He is the same God who said, you know what? Come with me. Moses, come and bring them. And I'm going to meet. Like I'm going to be present and I'm going to tell you again. And I'm going to show you again that I'm giving you everything you need today. And you don't need to complain. I'm going to hear you when you do. Like I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
But I know. And you're still the one that I want to draw out of the desert. So I'm grateful. Allie, as you think about like closing our time together, are there any words of encouragement that you want to share with our women that maybe have helped you or things that have been maybe something that's been said to you that was really helpful in encouraging you in the midst of a chaotic time, or any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think a really, and I said it earlier, but one of my friends, when I was just kind of in one of those lower places and it was just like, I just don't understand. Like, I just don't get it. Like, why I'm so frustrated. And she said, well, obviously God already knew that I felt that way. But, our nature is that we want to hide sometimes, I think, those negative feelings or those shameful feelings. And she said, just cry out to Him. And that was so powerful and empowering. Of just saying, God, like I am hurting and this is hard and I don't understand. And the way that He just came alongside me and said, well, I'm here and it's okay. My husband is just so positive. What comes out of his mouth multiple times a week, when I'm going on about something and he's like, you know what, it's all going to work out. And I'm like, well, that's not helpful. But actually, he's right. And it is true. And it won't work out the way that we envisioned it. And it will be different. And it will sometimes be harder. But it will also be better. And that's really hard, especially when the better may not show itself for months or years. And I think the biggest thing for me has just been being able to let go, and easier said than done. But just remembering that he has it. He has me and He's here. And I need to think more about how to align my heart to His will, even if I don't know what that will is. But the more I ask Him to just reveal that to me, and just the more peace I can feel with that lack of knowing. And of course, all of this is easy to say and really hard to do. But it's just a consistent practice. God calls us to work, and He calls us to work hard. And sometimes it's work to trust Him. But the more you practice it, the easier it, I think, gets. And when you forget, He's going to teach you again and again and again and again. So I think just be open to that instruction from Him, and just be willing to wait on the Lord, because He will do it in His timing.
Listener, I hope that this conversation was helpful to you and that you enjoyed listening. I am so grateful truly for everyone we have come on this podcast and share their stories and share vulnerably and talk about hard questions and wrestling. And especially so grateful for how Allie navigated that conversation. And, I think it's always important. Our heart on this podcast is to make sure that it's not just stories shared that are us-centered, but it's can be application driven and give us wisdom as a church family to draw out from. And I think some of my takeaways, and I hope and pray that maybe this can be true for you and maybe your takeaways look different based on what the Lord laid on your heart as you listened. But this idea, there's so much freedom in knowing I'm not in control, but God is. And so I don't have to worry about my next steps. And I think it's not bad or wrong to want things to go a certain way and ask for that or even work to that end to a point. And, it's not a bad prayer to say, hey, God, let's do this. But I think a better prayer is saying, hey, God, guide my heart to you. And letting your prayer life be so centered around your union with Christ more so than any circumstance. I think that is something that has kind of been a takeaway for me as I've listened to this conversation. And I think too, God sees everything through. And I loved that Allie made that point. And there's so much goodness to be found in being guided by God because he knows the full picture and we don't. So I'm super grateful, like I said, and those were some things that stuck out to me. And I hope as you listen, the Lord laid some things on your heart. But Camille, since you got to have this conversation with Allie and kind of led it so well, I would love to kind of put you on the spot and have you share, a personal example maybe of, I think it's one thing to be like, trust the Lord and God's in control and you can delight in that. But when the chaos does feel so present, what does it look like practically to delight in trusting God?
Yeah. It's not funny. It's coincidental that as Allie and I were prepping to have this conversation, there were some things going on within my family that health-wise were really just not ideal. And things can feel very especially with health things, when things feel out of control, it really throws you for a loop.
It really does.
Helpless. You want to be able to fix things and you just can't. And so, actually, a friend had told me one time, she was like, it's not necessarily about, Camille, knowing what the Lord is going to do in that moment. It's just about being able to worship in the middle of the chaos. If you can just get your heart aligned with the Holy Spirit and worship in the middle of chaos, that's when the Lord is really carrying you through. And so I was thinking about that, and there were a lot of things I could have jumped to doing right away. And I could have flown here, and I could have called these doctors, and I could have asked about this different medication, whatever is going on. But I stopped and I thought, okay, I need the reminder, Lord. Am I actually worshiping in this moment? It's difficult, sure. But the fact that God already knows the blueprint, he knows where this is going. He knows the spiritual fruit that's going to come at the end of it. And he knows the outcome, not only of my faith, but of the faith of those around me. And when I actually remember that, it does lead me to worship. And there might be things that I get to do to help make a situation better.
Sure.
The Lord might use me in some ways, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, he is good, even when I don't know what those things are going to be.
No, that is so good. And I think if anyone listening to this is like me, sometimes I'm like, well, sure, that sounds good. But okay, what does that look like, practically? And, when push comes to shove. And I think another big thing we care a lot about when we put this podcast together is practical takeaways. And I think for me, I was convicted to pray for delight in God's sovereignty, not to just passively accept it or almost shame myself into not wanting to be in control, but to, from a place of joy and trust, really to delight in God's sovereignty, and that praying not about the circumstance, but like we talked about a minute ago, praying that my heart would be aligned to His, and even finding small moments in the day to carve out time to do that really intentionally and purposefully. And just, looking for ways to go out of my way each day in my prayer life to say, okay, God, I'm thinking about this nonstop. I'm really tempted to move and work, and you haven't given me a green light. I'm going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to have your way. And so I think that really can be as simple as this can just really change your prayer life. And I think we're so quick to water things down like that, but I think that really is so powerful and worshipful. And so that was my practical takeaway. I hope as y'all listen to this, just like we talked about, takeaways and wisdom we learned from this conversation, I hope we also have takeaways, because our faith should inform our actions. And so,
Brooke, thank you so much for that. That was a really great takeaway. Listener, we hope you were encouraged. Thank you so much for listening in today.
Thanks for listening. For more episodes, be sure to follow Encouraged and Equipped.